All right, welcome back. So right now we're going to build in the two side pieces and the bottom piece. Let's jump right in. To build the side pieces, I'm going to take a look at from the right side of my model. And I'm going to create a sketch here on the right face. You could start on the left, doesn't really matter. And all I'm going to need to do here is just draw a triangle that starts at the bottom corner of the face, goes straight down 90 degrees and straight over. Now I've got the main part of it done. I need now to build in these tabs here so that the side will join strongly to the top. And I want those tabs to go through two layers, but not all the way through the third layer. That way they're kind of hidden from the front. So I'm going to use a rectangle tool. And these two rectangle tools, the 2-point rectangle tool and the center rectangle, all create horizontal or vertical rectangles. If you need to tip a rectangle at an angle, the way you do it is with a 3-point rectangle tool. So I'm going to use this one. I'm going to then say anywhere along this bottom line here, I'm going to click once, drag it out along that line a little bit, and say I'm going to do a 1 centimeter one to start with. And then I'm going to drag, I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag up for the third point, and this one I'm going to call thickness. I'm going to go through two layers, so I'm going to do thickness times 2. So that little asterisk means times 2. And I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to position it. Now notice that these two sides are blue, and that's because it can't get wider, but it can move up and down this line. So we need to fix it in place. To do that, I'm going to use the midpoint tool. I'm going to say take the middle of this line and match it with the middle of that line. Whoops. And there it is. So now it's fixed in place. It can't move. We're all good. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is create a rectangle pattern of this and make 5 of these. To do that, I'm just going to go here, create rectangular pattern. And I'm going to select not that one. I'm going to select the 3 sides that I need, this one, and this one. And notice that this isn't helpful, right? That's not the way we want to go. And vertical is not helpful either. We need to tell Fusion 360 that we want to go along this line. To do that, we just simply click over here on directions and then come here and click on this blue line. And notice now we can drag along this direction. Okay. And so that looks good so far. So now that I've drug them a little bit, I can see which one I'm working with. It's this one up here because this distance has changed. I'm going to say, hey, I want this symmetric and I want it to be 5. And that looks actually pretty sharp. That looks pretty good. See how it's jumping in like big jumps every time? That's because I'm zoomed way out. If I zoom in some, now I can have a little more control over how far it jumps. The farther in I go, the more control I have over it. I think that looks pretty good. Let's take a look from the outside. Yeah, I can live with that. That feels good. And then I'm just going to say okay to this. 4. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And now what I want to do is I actually want to go ahead and cut the tabs across the bottom because I want to be able to line them up because over here in the corner, I don't want to get too close to the corner and create a little piece that gets cut off weird. So I'm going to do that now. And I'm going to do this one a little differently. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to just create a rectangle around the start somewhere. And I'm going to call the thickness, this side's thickness. And then the other side, I don't know. Let's go a little more narrow. Let's go 0.75. We'll see how that looks. And then this one I might just do it as I might do just a couple of those and then just play around with the spacing. So here is going to be 0.75 again, and then this one is thickness, enter, and maybe 2 more like that. So 0.75, thickness, enter. And notice how those sides are blue, and that's because they're not fixed and they don't know where to be. Like they can go left and right still. So this is 0.75, and this one is thickness, enter. And a little trick we can do actually, if we want all of these to be the same, I can make this one 0.75. Then what I'm going to do is actually double click on this one and say I want it to be that one instead. So it's gonna match this one. I'm gonna double click on this. Whoa, nope, don't want to do that. I want to hit enter first. So double click on this one, or just click on it once. Yep, one click is all you need, and then hit enter. And you got to double click to get inside of it, and then a single click to do that. Enter, and then this one, and here, enter. The FX tells you that it's a formula, that it's calculating it based on something. It's calculating it based on whatever size this is. So now as we change this one, it'll change that one. Okay. Similar thing here. So I'm going to do a dimensioning tool, and I'm going to fix the distance between the two of them at, yeah, let's do 0.75, and we can always adjust it. And then when I do this one, watch what I do now. I go here, I click to put it there, and then I say I want it to be the same as that one, and then enter. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the distance between these two. And I'm going to click on that one and say enter. And now they're all going to be the same. Now this one over here, I actually want it to be like half the full width, as if there's another one starting out here somewhere. So there's a tricky way of doing this too. Check this out. I can go distance from here to here. And I want it to be this, but half of that. So I can just do a slash for divided by, and then 2, and then hit enter. Now notice how they've all gone black like that, because now they are all fixed in space. And I still have some room. I can get another one over here, or I can make all of these larger. And I think, let's see, how many do I have up here? And these are all 1 centimeter wide. So let's try that first. So here's the power of this. I'm going to hit here and go 1.0 and hit enter. And it just spread them out a lot. Like, that's pretty cool that just knocked that out like that. So that's going to be about where I want them to be. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to hit enter there. That's good. What I don't want to do is have this one be so close to this edge that this little triangle breaks off easily. So this is nice and strong piece of wood still. Now I need to extrude this. And what I'm extruding is I want this to be wood. So I'm going to do extrusion, and I'm going to extrude this and these tabs. Boom, just like that. Yep. And I want to extrude into the face. So here I'm going to need a negative thickness. So I just tipped it so I could see which way I want to go. Notice it thinks that I want to cut. That's not true. So I'm going to come down here to cut and say make a new body. And then I'm going to click OK. And now I have the side piece cut. Now the only problem is if I move the side piece, M for move, I click on it and I drag it out of the way. Notice how there's no holes here for these to fit into. We'll need to cut those. We'll do that after we make the other piece and get it aligned. Then we'll cut both sides at the same time. So to move it, we're going to actually, or to create a copy of it, to make a new piece, we're going to use the move copy tool. We're going to click on the thing we want. Make sure this says bodies up here and not faces. We're going to do this, and before we move it, we're going to say create a copy. And now we're going to move that copy. Notice how one got left behind. And we're going to drag it right down the face like this. And we're going to click OK. It doesn't matter where we get, as long as we get, over on the other edge, over in the other direction somewhere. Why is it doing that? There we go. Good job. And now I'm going to click over here to this top outside corner and move it around so I can see the outside face. Now I just need to align this side with this face. So I'm just going to use my align tool here in the modify menu. And I'm going to go from is the one that's going to be moving. 2 is where it's going to be moving to. Now when I select this one, I want to make sure I don't select a certain point on here. And then the 2, the same thing. I don't want to select this point. I just want to select the face here. That'll line the 2 faces up. And then I'm going to say OK. Now I need to cut those joints that we were talking about earlier. So I'm going to tip it a little bit so I can see both of them. And I'm going to use the combine tool. And I'm going to say the target body is the thing we want to cut. We want to cut holes in the face. And then the tool bodies are the things we want to cut with. And we're going to cut with this one and this one. And I want to make sure my keep tools is checked. Otherwise, my 2 tools I use will just disappear when I'm done. And I want them to stay. So I'm going to click OK. And now when I do my move command and I move this out of the way, you can clearly see now there's holes cut for those tabs to go into. So I'm going to cancel that move. And now I need to deal with my body. So I've got a face. I've got this one, which we're looking at the back. So this is actually the right side. So I'm going to rename body 8 to R side. And this one to L side. Okay, last step is to create the bottom of the piece. And to do that, all we're going to do is flip it over, go to the bottom, and we're going to create let me pull it up a little bit. We're going to create a rectangle across the bottom. To do that, we're going to do right here on this piece, we're going to click a sketch. Now, did it just flip it over? It did just flip over. That was super weird. I don't know why it did that. So the sketch I created up in the top left, and it zoomed me in and created it right here, which is super bizarre. Maybe I'm going to flip it back over. I don't know why I chose to do that. So there's the sketch I created, and now I need to drag this thing all the way down. So I'm going to take let's hide the face. That way we're not seeing it. We want this to go. Oh, that's going to be tricky. So this is probably a bad way of doing it. Let's not do it this way. So I'm going to actually go back a step, and I'm going to right click here down on the history marker and say delete all features up to history. That will delete that last sketch that we made. And I'm going to turn the face back on. Let's go back to home and orientate ourselves. So we actually need to create the piece across the bottom. One way to do it is to flip it over at the bottom. That's probably the most obvious way. That's the way I started doing it and create it. But we want it to be like lined up differently. So let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm actually going to make it on the right-hand face. This is one of those times when it's like, this is an interesting way of doing it. I'm going to create the bottom by doing a thin rectangle here and then extruding that rectangle all the way across the bottom. So instead of starting at the face and extruding it a thickness up, we're going to start at the edge of it and extrude it all the way across, because lining it up is going to be easier. Let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to hide the face here. I'm going to create a sketch right here in the triangle. And I'm going to start my rectangle for the bottom piece right here at the corner. And I'm going to run it across. Let me get the other side so I can see the whole thing. And then I want to make sure that this says thickness, right? And it lines up nicely. Now I want the bottom to stop right there. I don't want it to extend past here into the face at all, because it won't be able to make that cut because it's at a weird angle. So I'm going to stop the bottom right here. And then I'm just going to extrude this. And I'm going to extrude all of these pieces. And I want to extrude them. So I'm going to go look at my model from the top left like this. And I want to extrude this. The distance I want to go is to an object, and I want to go to this face of the object. Now it thinks I want to cut, but I don't. I want to create a new body, and I'm going to click OK. Now at this point, I can name this one body 10 is going to be bottom for me. And yeah, that's good. Now I'm going to flip it over. Now I do want to go look at it from the bottom. Okay. So all we need to do now is cut holes in the bottom. Because like right now, if I move this out of the way, you can see there's no holes cut in the bottom. To do that, it's a simple combine tool. We're going to take this. We want to target the bottom for cutting. And we want to use the two sides for our tool bodies. And we want to cut, and we want to keep our tools, and we want to click OK. And now, when we move this one, bam, all good to go. All right, so that's it for the modeling. Let me turn the face back on. That is the completed model for our placard. So we'll put down here like printer number 1. Here we'll put the sample for the print job, and here we'll put the information card telling it what kind of plastic and temperatures and all that good stuff. So the next video will show you how to take this model now, and now we need to flatten it out and break it down so that we can actually send it to our laser to cut all the different layers and pieces that go into it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.